Hello, I'm Frixius, creator of Neos VR, and currently I'm wearing the bHaptics vest, the forearm attachments, and the face cover. And in this video, I would like to demonstrate how is this device integrated into Neos, how it fits into the bigger haptic system, and how you can utilize it yourself to enhance your content with haptics, do like different like avatar interactions, and just in general like play with those kinds of devices. So the first thing, when you start using Neos, it already has like native support. If you have the bHaptics player installed, it'll automatically link up with whatever devices you have. And every avatar that is a full body avatar is automatically initialized with a set of haptic points. Those essentially points on the body, like for example on the forearms and on my chest, that map to the points on the device. Similarly, other avatars, they are enhanced, automatically injected with HapticVolumes, which are sort of like sources of haptic feedback. So pretty much like the entire body, if I actually put my hand, I can actually feel the body where it is. Similar like here, Veer, if he actually like reaches out and, for example, touches my forehead or touches my head, I'll be able like to feel the haptics. And you should be able like to see the response at the bHaptics visual on the screen. For the avatar interactions, it might be a little bit too weak, so it might need to look closer. Try doing like the chest as well. So you can kind of see, go a little bit further. It's not close enough. Oh, there we go. I can feel it now. Try the back. Oh, I can feel that. So you can see like without doing anything extra, assuming you have a full body avatar, it will automatically work with the bHaptics. But that's just the beginning for integration of Neos. You can actually use Neos's creative capabilities to create a lot of custom content. You can also use it to customize your avatar. So let's have a look at it first. I'm gonna switch this to the first-person view, so I can open up inventory, and I'm gonna enable private UI. And if I open up my inventory, I can grab the developer tool, and I can actually inspect myself. So if I open the inspector, I will go all the way to the hierarchy, and because I'm wearing all four devices, the vest, there's going to be multiple haptic points in the hierarchy. So if I look under the hips, there is torso haptics, and you can see also a bunch of like haptic points here. If I click here, show debug visuals, this will actually visualize where the haptic points are on my character. So you can see there's a bunch of different points, and each point represents a point that corresponds to the device. Neos does this mapping. Neos does this mapping automatically based on whatever hardware is present, and it's essentially using body parameterization. So it knows like how wide my shoulders are, it knows like how wide the hips are on the avatar, and it automatically spaces the points. If we are like tries to interact with those points again, you'll be able to see them activate. I think I need to go a little bit further.
They seem to be activating.
There we go. I think you're not like going like far enough because like the activation is based a little bit on the distance, so you need to like go to like go even closer.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah.
Like when they like
the center of the sphere there.
Oh yes. Yeah, like the sphere, whenever they light up, that means there's intersection, but it's also modulating the intensity based on how far you are. So like you need to actually push a little bit like into the sphere for it to produce an effect. So you can kind of see like those points activate, and if you need, for example, if you have like an avatar with a different body shape, you might need to or want to like adjust it so like it fits it better. By default, it should match most humanoid characters pretty well. It's actually basing on the rig, but I can very quickly show you how to adjust this. I'm actually going to use a mirror so we can both see. So you can see my avatar while also seeing the inspector. So I'm just gonna space it out. I'm gonna move a little bit so I don't bump into things in my room. And over here you can see a bunch of properties. You have the upper width, lower width. So for example, if I adjust the upper width, I'm gonna put an intentionally big number there. You can kind of see now the points that actually space out much further. So if you have avatar that has like broad shoulders or broad body, you can actually use it to make it more accurate. Similarly, I can adjust the offset, so there are actually points both on the front and on the back. And if I adjust this, you can see like the points will be pushed further, which means like they will actually activate sooner.
Okay.
Yep, there we go. So now he actually doesn't have to like touch all the way like into the body. You can also adjust the normalized stars. So for example, if I click here, let me adjust this here. You can see that now they essentially they start at further point along the spine. I'm going to disable these visuals and very quickly show you how you can also showcase others. So because I'm also wearing the forearm attachments, if I navigate all the way to the shoulders, so let's see, I'm going to narrow down the view so I can have a better look. You can find there's arm haptics, and arm haptics they actually have 6 points. So there's there we go. You can feel that. So we have essentially 3 points at the front and 3 points like a little bit further along the arm. And similarly, you can adjust the parameterization. This actually maps points potentially for the entire arm, but the hardware I'm currently using, it's only like attachment that's at the front of the forearm, so, which is why I only have these points. If I change, for example, the axis, like for example, this actually isn't too accurate because some of these points are supposed to be at the front of the arm, so I can change which axis is the upwards axis. So let me try changing it to Z. So there we go. And I feel this is a little bit more accurate. I would like play with it a little bit more. It's take a little bit to actuate, but you can always like customize with it and play it. And the last point is if I hide these. And the last point is a head. So I'm actually wearing the face cover, which is inside of the headset. I'm also using the Vive Pro Eye, so I have eye tracking. If I look at the head, there is head haptics, and this is parameterized simply using head size. So you see there's a bunch of points at my forehead, and there's also this yellow sphere, which represents the rough shape of the head of the avatar. So we can actually see this is a little bit too small, so I can increase the size. So let me bump it up a little bit. I'm gonna go 6 here. Let's try 2 here. There we go, and a little bit further. And you can also adjust the offset where the head center is, but I feel like this is close enough. So now here, if he touches the forehead, I'll be able to feel it on my... Oh! That's a touch, not punch. So try like doing a slow one. There we go. So I can feel that. So this is how we can actually customize, and this is how Neos' system kind of maps whatever hardware you're using to the actual avatar. In the future, once there are more attachments, like for example, once you can put in your legs, or if there's different types of hardware with different number of points, this system will automatically pick it up and map the haptics hardware to your virtual body, and the racer will create like this like a relation between them. So the other part of the system, these are the haptic points, and I'm gonna hide this. The other part of the system is our HapticVolumes, and that's essentially what HapticVolumes are, what provides the source of haptics within the environment, within the avatar. I can very quickly show how the HapticVolumes are initialized for an avatar, and that is done. I can actually open myself again and switch this to this. That is done using a component that's at the root of the user. You can find a component called Haptics Manager. So it should be, there we go, there's Haptics Manager. And you have a bunch of like parameters to play with. You can like control the intensities, you can control how is this map. This also only works for avatars that are not set up with custom haptics. You can actually do a custom setup on the avatar. So like if you want to make something that's more precise or some kind of like custom setup, you can attach another component and have your avatar actually use custom provided haptics. But if that component is not present, it will automatically inject it. So like you don't have to do anything, and people can just interact with you. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check the debug visuals, and I'm gonna rebuild injected sources. And I can only see this on my end, but I can actually see all the colliders of the avatar, and these colliders are what is the source of the haptic. So whenever the haptic points on my avatar intersect with these colliders, they will actually actuate. There's also like 2 points, like you can for example see the head and the hands, they have a stronger feedback than the rest of the body. You can also of course like adjust it. So for example, if I ramp it up, so for example there's injected hand intensity, I'm gonna ramp it up really high. Usually this is not too comfortable for this kind of like interaction, but I want to show it for demonstration purposes. I'm gonna rebuild injected sources again, and now this actually is much stronger.
Pat.
And you can probably even hear it like in the microphone. You can actually hear it like actuating. Ooh. Yeah, that's definitely much stronger. So I'm gonna undo, and I'm gonna hide this and rebuild again. So this provides like another like way of customization. But let's say you are a creator in Neos and you actually want to enhance the environment with haptics. You want to enhance whatever items you make. You can actually create your own custom haptic volumes and put them on items or put it in the environment. I'm going to switch it back to smooth POV and I'm going to show you how to create one of them. So I'm just going to start with an empty object. So let's do a sphere. So I'm going to create a sphere. So this is just a regular kaleidosphere. It doesn't do anything right now. But if I open it up, then in the components, I go to attach component. I can go to input, haptics, and there's a component called HapticVolume. So when I attach this, notice that it changed the collider type to haptic trigger, which means I can no longer interact with it by grabbing it. But if I ramp up the intensity and I intersect with it, this actually activates. And if I go, that's very strong. So this actually provides, this is now a source of haptic feedback. If I wanted to still interact with the sphere by grabbing it and moving it around, I can actually do that by simply duplicating the collider and setting it to static. So now I can actually move it around. So now there's like one collider that is responsible for the grabbing interaction, and the other one that's responsible for the haptic system. So you can see it still activates. If I push my head into it, I can definitely feel that. So by default, on the haptic volume, you have a constant intensity. So you can kind of see I can ramp it all the way to 100%. This is going to be really strong. Ooh, yep, very strong. You can adjust this. This is something you can also modulate using LogiX, using our in-game visual programming system. So if I actually grab this, for example, and this is the LogiX tooltip, I can create a very simple interaction. So I was just going to open a node menu, and let's say I wanted the intensity to kind of fluctuate with a sine wave. So I'm going to pull out interface for the haptic volume. You can see I can access the intensity. Then what I'm going to do is take time, and this is essentially just changing time. It just keeps incrementing. And in math, I can take the sine function. I'll take the sine function, and this kind of gives me value between like 1 and -1. The intensity, it needs to be between 0 and 1, but I actually don't mind that it's -1 because that means half of the time it's going to be completely disabled. And all I can do is just plug this in. So I plug the intensity in, and you can see it's modulating the effect. And if I stick my hand in, you see now it's deactivated, but now I can feel it. And I cannot feel it again. So any of the properties for the haptic system, they can be modulated and controlled using the in-game scripting language. And it lets you create a variety of different effects, activate the haptics for different scenarios, like modulate them with sound, for example. One thing I could do is modulate it with voice. So for example, if I take Veer here, I'm going to open him up and find... Oh, looks like I had it right.
Also, I just realized you can make like an awesome like massage chair with that, actually.
Oh, yeah.
A virtual one.
Yep. You can pretty much create like whatever kind of like interactions like you want. The system is like very powerful. Like our in-game scripting can be used to create pretty much any kind of like interaction we desire, and everything kind of plugs into the system. So over here I have your Visime analyzer. So this is like whenever you talk, and if I take the tooltip again, I can actually pull this out. I can see it's kind of attached to here. It's actually attached like right to his mouth. Yep. And let's say like I have there's the silence, but let's say I want to take one of the Visimes. So for example, let's try the S sound. Can you go like S? There we go. So I can take this, This is just for demonstration purposes. So like normal, like you would take like something like music, or you would like use something a little bit more complex. But now if I stick my hand into this, and let me actually make this a little bit bigger so I can better see. And he goes, I can feel it. Oh no, oh no.
Oh, that's good.
Try saying something, just like some kind of sentence.
Something. I am saying a sentence with
that's
lots
weird.
and lots of S's. And
I can feel that.
You can feel my sentences.
I can feel
That's
S's.
crazy.
I can feel your S's. It's actually funny because I can only feel it like whenever it goes like whenever you say like something else, I can feel it. So you see, like the system's very powerful, and like this is just scratching the surface of it. But I don't want to go too in depth. Like if you want to like look into the visual programming in EOS, there's tutorials on the YouTube that you can find. There's tutorials in game. But there's one more important part of the system they wanted to demonstrate. So I'm just gonna delete this part. And oop, I need to delete this as well. And I'm gonna freeware of this. So now I deleted it. It went back to 0. I'm actually gonna set it all the way to 1. So now it is constant again. And I'm also clean up this part, so we don't need this anymore. So one thing that's a little bit difficult to achieve is like when you want to actually actuate the system based on the individual point, or you want to do something that shouldn't be tied to the game's update loop. So to give you a little bit more like control over like the individual points and do some certain kinds of common effects, Neos has a set of something called haptic filters. And each haptic filter is essentially a way of like modulating the strength of the effect based on a certain property. So let's have a look at how to set those up. So I'm going to switch this back to smooth POV. So currently this is constant, and if I go attach component, input, haptics, there's a set of filters. And one that's, for example, interesting is the radial distance haptic filter. So I'm simply going to attach this component, and by default, it's already set up to kind of provide you like some behavior. And what this does is actually it modulates the strength of the feedback based on the distance from the center of the collider. So if I start sticking my hand in, at first it's like really, really weak, and the closer I go to the center, the stronger it is. So I'm at the center, it's really, really... Let me actually switch the camera to the person view. So if I... Let me move the camera a little bit. If I start sticking the hand in, I can start feeling it, and the closer I go, the stronger it is. And if I actually stick my hand in, I'll be able to feel it on my head as well. So see, this kind of gives you this this level of control. And again, like these properties are something you can modulate. I'm also gonna clean up a little bit more. And there we go. These properties are something you can modulate with LogiX, so you can also adjust them. So if I, for example, adjust the start and end radius, I can go and set this to like 4. This will actually take much smaller range to reach the full intensity. So I start going in, and it's weak, but like it gets stronger really, really fast. And conversely, I can actually do the opposite. I can, if I change the end radius, now when I go in, actually no, sorry, this is incorrect. If I decrease the end radius, then you see like I won't be able to feel anything until I reach the core. But if I wanted to change the curve a little bit, I can use the property called power, and essentially what it does right now, the response is linear. So if I took a brush and just did a quick sample, so let's say you have the distance, and this is the intensity. I'm just going to mark it high. So by default, this is linear. But what the power does is it actually lets me kind of shape that curve. So it can either like start very weak and then ramp up really fast, or it can ramp up really fast and then kind of like plateau. So if I ramp this up to, I'm gonna also increase it in size. I'm gonna ramp it up to 4. I can kind of feel like how it's like changing, like it takes a little bit like more like to reach. And if I do the opposite, I'm gonna set it really low. You see, like I cannot even feel anything until I just start like reaching the center. So now essentially it's giving me like this kind of like curve, whereas previously it was like ramping up really fast. There's another interesting part, another interesting filter. Just also clean this up. Another interesting filter is one called impact time haptic filter. And what this does is it actually lets me kind of modulate it based on the impact time. So like if I enter this with this filter on, you saw that like this was a really strong impact, but essentially then it slowed down. And if I exit and enter again, it will do it again. So what this does is it makes sure that the impact it actually trails off over time. And I can adjust the time. I can like make it like a really low, so like the impact is very short. So it can be like whenever I enter this, it gives me a strong jolt. But like if I stay in the collider, it's actually not giving me any more haptics anymore. You can also do a lot of interesting stuff with this. You can adjust the power similarly, so like it changes based on time. But one notable property is called use global time. When this is on, this gives me like one global impact. So like if other parts of the body enter, like they will not receive any more haptics. Even if I, for example, enter my hand and then I walk in, let me switch the camera to the view. So like I put my hand in and then I enter, like I don't feel anything. That's because the impact time is based on the first collision with the volume. But if I disable this, it will actually be for individual point on the suit. So again, I'm gonna move this out of the way, and I'm gonna like go very slowly, and you can kind of like watch what happens on the feedback. You can kind of see like every individual point takes a little bit like to actuate. And as I move in, it's like a wave of haptics travels over my body. And if I go a little bit faster, you can still see it kind of creates this like haptic effect. So what's really cool about this is I can actually feel it's something like as if I'm like walking like through a barrier or something. So like this could be really cool to create some kind of like force field effect or something like that. There's some other effects. Let's switch the camera back. I'm not gonna go through detail through every one of them, but another thing that's like notable is the simplex noise haptic filter. And actually let me also show you the sine haptic filter first, because for simplex noise I have a cool example out there that I want to show you. So let's set up the sine haptic filter. What this is essentially a similar thing to what I did before, but you can do it per point. It uses the sine function to kind of modulate the intensity, and by default this is set to 4 Hz, so I'm just gonna change it to 1. And if I walk in, this is too strong all the time. Hold on, let me see. Oh, I sent it all the way to 0, I mean. There we go. And you can kind of like see it probably on the visualization. This kind of creates like this kind of like pulsing effect. And if I made it like a little bit faster, if I set it to 2, this is something like you could like use to simulate something like a heartbeat or something that's like a pulsing effect. There is another property. You can actually also change it. Right now, like it's global, which means like it pulses through the entire volume, but you can actually make the sine wave kind of travel. And you can either make it travel along a single axis or based on the distance from the center. I'm actually gonna use distance. So I'm gonna use axis Y, which is vertical. And now if I walk into this, and I'm gonna change it back to 1, you should be able to see sort of, and this is a little bit too strong, so I'm actually gonna reduce the max intensity a little bit. So I should be able like to see sort of like a wave traveling through. And you can do similar thing with the distance. So if I walk in, because I'm not kind of like to the center, but if I walk like if I rotate sideways, the wave should be like traveling across my body. So this is for sign haptic filter, and the one that I wanted to show you as well is the simplex noise. And what it does is actually it modulates. This is like a noise function to modulate the strength of the effect throughout the volume. And what it's really useful for is like to create sort of a form of non-uniformity. So like the feedback doesn't feel the same throughout the entire volume. And let's actually go outside. Because if we go outside, over here we have a really nice river. And I'm just gonna jump down. And what I really want to do is actually, when I walk into this river, I would actually want to like feel the water. But the water is actually moving. It's not, and we actually might need to also like remove the collider. Let me do that real quick. Because right now we can kind of walk on the water. Oop, and it was the entire map, sorry. So I'm gonna restore it. I'm not gonna complicate it a little bit too much. I'm actually just gonna use like a no clip so I can. Actually, I cannot. Give me a moment. I'm just gonna quickly change the collider specifically on the river. So this is the river. This is the mesh collider. So I'm just gonna disable this. And now there we go. Now should be able to walk into the water. So you can see now I'm kind of submerged in the water, but I don't feel anything. And I actually expect to feel sort of like a turbulence. So let's see how we can actually use Neosys tools to kind of like enhance this environment and make this river actually a response, so create a haptic response. So what I'll do is I'll grab the shape tool. This lets me like make basic shapes. And with this tool, I can actually approximate the shape of the river. And the thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna enable scaling and switch myself to no clip so I can freely fly around the environment. And now I can actually scale myself up. And a little bit more. So see now the environment, there's some wet collider there. So now the environment is actually tiny compared to me. And what I can do is just like create a cube and roughly approximate the shape. I'm gonna move this down a little bit. There we go. And I'm gonna reset my scale. So I can actually do a little bit of fine tuning, just move this a little bit lower. So now I've got a big collider, it's kind of like covering the river. And it's not too precise, like I would have to like fine tune it a little bit more, but for our demonstration purposes, this is sufficient. And what I'll do is convert this into a haptic volume. So it's a similar process as before, so I'm gonna select it first and open the inspector. And I'll just put the tool here. I'm gonna grab this. I don't actually need the visual. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just disable the mesh renderer. It is still there, just as a collider. And over here we can see there's the actual box collider. So let's simply let's remove the grabbable as well. We don't want it to be grabbed anymore. And let's attach the haptic volume. So I'm gonna do haptics and haptic volume. And I'm gonna ramp this up, let's say to 20, roughly. And now if I walk into this river, I'm gonna switch the camera and move it a little bit. I should be able to start feeling it as soon as it hits my torso. There we go. And I'm submerged. It actually vibrates everything. But this is a little bit weird for water. So what I'm gonna do is use this simplex noise to kind of give it more of a turbulent feeling. So I will go to input, haptics, filters, and use this simplex noise haptic filter. And this is already like set up like with like a noise. So if I walk in, the haptics, they actually feel different. Like if I move around, you can probably see this like well on the visualizer. Is like the haptics there they're kind of moving, like they're different at every single point, and it kind of breaks that like uniformity it would normally have. You can adjust the scale. So on the simplex noise, like if you wanted the noise to be like more dense or if you wanted a bit bigger, you can adjust it. What's also interesting, you can actually modulate the value. So if I set this to negative, and remember from earlier, when the value is negative, that means it's essentially off. And if I walk in, this will create areas where essentially I don't feel any haptics at all. But it's okay, because as I move, like I feel those haptics elsewhere. And now if I'm just like staying in this water, like these haptics are kind of constant. I can kind of feel a point here, I can like feel a point here, but I would want to be actually moving with the water. So this is where the visual scripting comes back into play again, because if I look, I can actually adjust the noise offset. So I'm gonna grab the LogiX tooltip again. I'm gonna pull out the interface, and then I'm gonna take time, and I simply want it to be moving along a single axis. And you can see the red one, that's the x-axis. So I want it to be moving along x. So I will take time, then I will actually multiply it with the value, so I can adjust how fast it flows. And I'm just gonna eyeball, let's say 5. And now actually, because this offset, this is a 3-dimensional number, it's a vector, I need to use xyz. And the other two will remain 0. So I'll simply plug this here. And if I look, this is now moving like this. I plug this here. And now if I walk in, it's actually traveling, and I can adjust the speed simply by changing the number here. Let's say 20. I walk in, and you can kind of feel sort of like a haptic. So this kind of creates like a interesting effect. Like if somebody has a haptic device, like the bHaptics suit, they will actually be able to like feel this water now. And this kind of like enhances like the experience. Like if, like for example, you wanted to make something swimming, like a swimming application, or you just wanted the users to kind of feel the environment rather than just see it. There is one more example that I wanted to showcase, and that's like how we can actually upgrade items. So we have a funny item here. So I'm gonna equip this. We have a funny item, it's sort of like a bonk hammer. So if I equip this, if I use sphere, for example, like you can see I can bonk his head, and I can bonk my head, but I cannot feel anything. And it's kind of like, with the haptics, like this is a really good opportunity to actually enhance this item. So all I need to do is attach a haptic volume around here. So I can use a similar approach. What I'll do is, I don't know if I have the tool again. Let me see. I'm just gonna grab this. So this would be very well approximated using a cylinder. So I'm just gonna make a cylinder that's roughly the shape. It's kind of matches. And I can make this into a haptic volume and make this part of the hammer. So I'm gonna open this first. We have the hammer. I'll have a look. This is all the way to the root. I'm just gonna position it. This is just for purpose of a demonstration, so I can just eyeball it, so it's good enough. For the cylinder, I'll take the cylinder and make it part of the hammer. So now it's actually moving together, and I can close this. The important thing, like you can still move it out of the hammer because it's individually grabbable. So I'll just move it back, and let's actually remove everything we don't need. We don't need the mesh, we don't need the renderer, we don't need the material. We only care about the colliders, so we also remove the grabbable. And we attach the haptics. So let's go input, haptics, haptic volume. This is set to 4th. Actually, I want this hammer to be like very impactful, so I'm gonna ramp it all the way to 1. But I'm also gonna use the filter to limit the time. So there's the impact time, and I want it to only give me like a jolt. So it's not like if I like took this and put it to my head, there's like a constant vibration, but I actually want that to be just an impact. So I'm gonna put impact. I'm gonna shorten it to, let's see. I think that's too short. Let's actually increase the start time a little bit, and then give it a little bit more after.
You can really finely tune it.
Yep. There we go, and I can definitely feel that.
Well, that's no fun. Give me that.
Okay. Oh, oh wait, hold on. I think you're grabbing me.
Oh, whoops.
So let's actually do it a little bit more. And I'm gonna adjust the power so it kind of ramps up quick. Try it again. Oh, wait, hold on, you're grabbing me.
Sorry.
Okay, try it. Ah, ouch. I think I need to go a little bit deeper, so like, there we go. Oh, I actually got my chest. Ouch. Well, that's I can definitely feel that. So you can kind of see like we can like very quickly enhance any items made in Neos and essentially introduce the haptic support for them. So I hope, let's actually move a little bit here so like we have a nicer scenery for the end. So I hope like you liked this example. I hope this kind of showed you like what you can do with haptics inside of Neos, how you can start experimenting with the system, how you can start like building items, how you can prototype, and how you can enhance your content here. So if you'd like to know more, there's a bunch of links in the description. You can find Neos on Steam. It's a free application, a social VR application. You can also support us on Patreon, and that's one of the things that I also wanted to say, like thanks to our supporters for getting us here, because all this entire platform and all of its tools wouldn't exist without our Patreon supporters. So there's a big thanks to them. There's a bunch of other links. You can also check out the website. You can check out our official Twitch channel. Let me know like if you have any questions, and last but important, we also have official Discord where you can get the latest news, you can ask questions, you can showcase what you made, so definitely check it out. So thank you very much for watching, and see you with the next one. Peace.